Hi, everybody. How are you today? Thanks for coming out. I know it's not the greatest weather, so thanks for braving the cold and coming to see us here. Um, you can't better? Okay, sorry. I don't speak with the microphone very often. So once again, I'm Josh. I'm the director of the fitness program here, and we've got Ilene with us, and we've got Sharon as well. They'll tell you a little more about themselves when they come up and speak. So we're all here for mobility, right? Mobility is one of those things that we don't really think about until it starts to change or decrease. Often the first signs are kind of small. Standing or getting up from a seated position might be a little more difficult. Walking, you might feel a little less steady. And maybe we start avoiding certain movements like getting onto the ground for fear of not being able to get up. Mobility isn't about our athletic ability or flexibility. It's about how effectively our body moves through everyday life, like standing, walking, turning, reaching, even maintaining balance. And as we age, changes in mobility are totally common, right? Our joints may feel a little bit stiffer, especially when we wake up, and maybe we don't feel as strong as we once did. And our balance can become a little bit more challenging. But, these changes don't usually happen all at once. It happens over time, right? And when mobility starts to become limited, everyday tasks require a little more effort. Moving can feel a little less confident. We often begin to modify or even avoid certain activities. And once we start avoiding or stopping a lot of those activities altogether, we lose the ability to do them. Use it or lose it, right? So in essence, mobility is independence in motion. But the good news is it's one of the few physical qualities that we can actively protect as we age, right? And it strongly influences how independent we remain as we age. So the important point of this is that mobility is not fixed. It responds to movement, to strength, to balance, and consistent physical activity at any age. Today, we're going to focus on what mobility really is, why it plays such a critical role in our daily function and safety, and how we can maintain and improve it. We'll put a strong emphasis on the exercise portion as a primary tool for protecting our mobility. We'll also discuss the role that physical therapy plays in identifying maybe limitations, managing pain, and supporting safe movement and getting ourselves back to a safe place. And then the goal today is just understanding and have a practical application that you can go home with to start maybe working on improving or maintaining your mobility, okay? All right, so let's first start with what mobility is, okay? The functional definition of mobility is it's the ability to move our body freely, safely, and efficiently through movements required for daily life. But it's not one single ability, it's a combination of systems working together. Mobility depends on our joints, range of motion, or our flexibility, how strong our muscles are, balance and coordination, nervous system control, postural stability, and even confidence in our movement. So it's not just whether a joint can move, it's whether you can use that movement safely and confidently. To better understand mobility, let's kind of take a look at like an everyday task. So for example, you guys know I love sit to stands, right? So what does that take? That takes hip and knee mobility, leg and hip strength, and even some balance and coordination. Walking outdoors takes hip, ankle, and knee mobility, balance and reaction time, and endurance, right? So you see, everyday activities isn't just one thing. It requires a multitude of systems from our body to be able to do that. And when one of those gets out of balance, then it can really affect our mobility, okay? So you're gonna hear a lot of different terms. I just kind of want to describe each of them. So when we talk about flexibility, we're talking about the ability of a joint or muscle to move through a range of motion passively, right? When we talk about strength, it's our body's ability to produce force in a controlled manner. And then mobility, once again, it's the strength through that range of motion, a real world task, all right? A joint that is flexible but weak is gonna be unstable. A joint that is strong but stiff doesn't move well, and mobility requires both. Many of us stretch but don't strengthen, some of us walk but don't train balance, and most of us will avoid movements if we're having pain or fear of doing that movement. But mobility is not fixed, once again. It responds to strength training, it responds to balance training, and regular movements. So why should mobility matter to your life? Why are you here? Why should it matter, right? Mobility is one of the strongest predictions of function, safety, independence, and really general quality of life as we age. We know research linked to reduced mobility. We have an increased fall risk, loss of independence, higher hospitalization rates, increased need for assisted living, and ultimately a higher mortality risk. right? In many cases, we see a mobility loss come before major medical decline, okay? So, when we know the data that, over the age of 65, 1 in 4 people fall, right? And falls are one of the leading causes of injury-related deaths in older adults. And most falls, they happen during normal routine activities. It's not tripping over something big. It's doing something in the house, maybe reaching for something in a cabinet, or picking up something off the countertop and turning weird. And that's usually where we see it happen. And so when we increase our mobility and improve our mobility, we can decrease the risk of all that happening. Okay. See, what can happen here is we have this like mobility fear cycle, right? When we start to feel less steady in ourselves, I got to hold up higher. When we start to feel less steady, that feeling of less steady, so we end up kind of moving less, making smaller movements. Think about walking through a room when it's dark, right? We take little smaller steps, we shuffle our feet. Now, once we start those movements becoming smaller and less, then our range of motion in those joints gets smaller, our joints get stiffer, our muscles get weaker. And then what does that lead to? Decreased balance, decreased confidence in our movements. And then with all that, then increases that risk of falling. So it's just this big cycle. So that's the reason why this is so important, that we think about our mobility in terms of this. Mobility also determines how easily we move throughout our day. And not only affects our physical health, but it can also affect our mental health and overall quality of life, right? When we have a decreased mobility and decreased ability to get out, we start to avoid certain things. Maybe if we don't feel comfortable going outside, we're not going to come here as often, right? And if we're not coming here and seeing our friends and we're less social, that leads to medical decline as well. So, it's not just a physical thing. When we talk about mobility, we talk about exercise, we talk about health, it's not just physical, it's the emotional and mental side too. So what can we do, right? We can start first. We're going to talk about how to maintain and improving through exercise. So the first one is going to be strength training or resistance training. And everybody kind of knows what that is. We lifting weights. And not that we have to train like Arnold Schwarzenegger and lift all kinds of big heavy weights, but starting to include the resistance training into our normal activities. The American College of Sports Medicine recommends strength training to be done about 2 to 3 times a week. And we want to do a moderate to challenging effort. And we want to do around 3 sets of each exercise, about 8 to 12 repetitions, okay, and what that means. But what we want to do, when we think about how the body moves, we have about 5 basic movements of our body, right? We have a pushing movement, where we open a door, or pushing something away from us. We have a pulling something to us, maybe pulling our blanket up to us or whatever it may be, even pushing up overhead. We have hip flexion, right? Where we're sitting down and standing up. A lot of times we'll call it a squat, but we have single leg hinge movements too, like walking upstairs, walking up a curb. And then we have rotational movements, right? Turning side to side. So when we're looking at doing resistance training and adding it into our daily, our weekly workout, we want to make sure that we're covering all those basic movements, right? We don't need to come up with this super elaborate, plan of 42 different exercises. And, if we just stick to 5 major movements with resistance training, it can already start to add a lot to our body's ability to move through range of motion with a little bit more ease. When we know what strength helps us going upstairs, standing up, also helps with balance recovery too, right? All those who take my balance class, we do resistance training in the class every time. Why? Because we add stability to that joint when our muscles are stronger, okay? Going up the stairs or even getting off the ground becomes much easier when those muscles can produce that force. Also with our posture, you guys hear me say it all the time, right? A lot of these exercises are for our postural muscles to help pull our shoulders back. When our body is in line, we're much more stable, right? And we have much better balance, which also reduces the risk of fall as well. Let's go into balance training. So balance training, you guys all take my balance class, I'm a big believer in it, but adding it in about 3 times a week, and you can do balance training at home. You don't have to come to a class, and you don't have to go to a gym to do it. But remember, balance is not a skill. Our balance is a skill. It's not a reflex, right? So it is something that we can improve upon. Certain things like one-legged stands, narrow stance stands, even moving, like doing walking drills, like tippy-toe walks, or walking the line where you're doing a narrow stance walk. All these things help train our body, right, to have better balance. And balance is a big part of our mobility as well. So doing that about 3 times a week, it'll take you 5 or 10 minutes. You can do it at the kitchen counter. You can hold onto the kitchen counter and just stand on one leg for 20 seconds at a time, switch. And just doing that on a regular basis is going to not only, you may not even realize that your balance is getting better, but when you're out in the real world doing certain things, walking around the grocery store, you're going to kind of notice that your balance is improving, right? Your risk of losing your balance or falling comes way down. All right, on to the role of aerobic activity in mobility. So aerobic activity could include walking, treadmill, cycling, swimming, really anything where it gets our heart rate up, where we do for an extended period of time, okay? Aerobic activity primarily supports the systems that allow us to move for longer periods of time. So strength training helps us produce force, where the aerobic activity helps us do it for a longer period of time. Does that make sense? Okay. Specifically, aerobic exercise improves heart and lung function, increases stamina and endurance, makes daily activities feel less tiring, and supports circulation and just overall health. When we see aerobic fitness low, even simple movements can feel exhausting. And when we start to feel fatigue or exhausting, that increases our fall risk. We stop moving as much, and we stop moving with confidence as well. So how does aerobic activity support mobility? It works best for mobility. It obviously combined with strength and balance training. That's why we're talking about all these, and flexibility training. But it allows us to practice movement patterns repeatedly, right? So if we're walking on a treadmill, we're practicing that walking pattern over and over. So that also gives us the confidence. I know, sorry, someone's hitting a boxing bag up there. Yeah. Also reinforces the walking with confidence. And I know I've repeated confidence quite a bit. But honestly, decreasing confidence is one of the bigger reasons why we see people falling, right? Because we see that confidence that leads to the fear, to the less movement, so on and so forth down that cycle. And the aerobic activity also helps us stay active even between our exercise sessions, right? If we're in better shape, we have more energy, we're going to do more things even outside of the gym, right? We're not going to want to go home and just sit on the couch because we're tired and exhausted. It does give us more energy, and the more movement, we know that helps improve our mobility, okay? So ACSM, once again, recommends about 150, up to 300 is probably quite a bit, but 150 to 200 minutes of moderate intensity activity, okay? So what does moderate intensity mean? We like to use a talk test, right? If I ask you a question, you can answer, but you can't sing me a whole song, but you also don't need to take a breath in between every word. So you should be able to answer a question with a sentence, but like I said, you shouldn't be able to go ahead and sing a whole song. If you're not that out of breath, maybe up it a little bit more, but if you want, and you want a real heart rate zone to work, you can always come to myself or Ilene, and we can kind of figure that out for you, okay? And once again, the modality of exercise for aerobic, find what you like, okay? Not everybody likes treadmill, not everybody likes bike. Find whatever you like and stick with that, because the most important thing is the consistency, right? It's not about one time up there doing one exercise and that's gonna change it. This has to be a consistent thing, an ongoing thing. So, find the movements that you like to do. Maybe you don't even like to exercise indoors, you like to walk outdoors. Okay, that's great, that's still aerobic exercise. So, now, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ilene. She's going to go ahead and talk. Well, she'll tell you what to talk about, but she's going to talk about flexibility training and mobility. So, I'll give you that here.
Thank
you.
Get this too. I think I got one. Hi, everybody. I recognize many of you from my class. So, I'm Ilene Green. I teach an exercise class here several mornings a week. And as many of you know who come to the class, we spend quite a bit of time talking about the importance of mobility and stretching. So I thought I'll start us out. I want to make sure everybody's up, and we're going to do some stretching, and then we'll talk about what it is, why it's important, and how it relates to mobility. All right? You guys ready to work? Some of you, I wanted a few of you to come up and be my models, but they said no. So the first one is, I call it our tush stretch. So, but before I get started, I want to show of hands. How many of you, when you wake up in the morning, and be honest, and I'm going to say yes, have noticed that you're tight? Have noticed that certain movements, for example, lifting both your hands straight up, adjacent to your ear, you can no longer do. Or if you do it, it hurts, right? Come on, be honest. There you go, everybody. So a few things happen as we age. Our muscles get harder, they get tighter, and our muscles surrounds our joints. So unless you're stretching consistently, things will just become more and more difficult to do. Functional movements will become more difficult to do. Bending down to tie your shoes will begin to hurt. You won't be able to lift your leg. You won't be able to reach up and get to your tippy-top cabinet. So we're not 10 years old anymore. We're not doing cartwheels. We're not doing somersaults. Our motions have become much more limited as we get older, just pure function. So it's important that you take a few moments every day, 5 to 10 minutes, and you invest in yourselves, right? We try to eat right. We try to eat our protein. We try to get enough sleep, right? We try to do all these things. You go to shul, you try to be a good person, you try to be a good neighbor, but you have to invest in your own physical body, your own physical self. Because if you don't, your body will get tighter. Your muscles will just continue to shrink and they'll continue to get harder. That's physically what happens. So, no one wants to be my model, but we do have some people in the audience, and I won't say who there are women in their 90s and 80s who are as flexible as 40-year-olds. And there's one reason why, because it's consistent, continual, daily exercise their whole adult life. But here's the good news. Let's say, you know what, Ilene, I'm not stretching. I haven't done bupkis for 20 years. Okay? It's okay. It's okay. Because you can reverse it. It's never too late to reverse that change. So even if you begin tomorrow, you're going to start to feel better. And then the next week you'll feel better after that, and so on and so forth. So the class that I teach on Wednesday mornings has been, I've been incorporating yoga into it and stretching, but the class on Wednesday morning is going to be fully dedicated to mobility and stretching. We won't do any of the weights. And so that change will happen soon. As soon as I get a understanding of how many people want to do it, I'll order some equipment. Okay? So let's wake our bodies up. Let's do a little stretching. If you can't do it, it's okay, but let's give it a try. So the first one we're going to do is I call the tush stretch, and it's an important stretch. So if you're able to, bring your foot up, cross it over. Good. Nice. Take your hand and then press down on that knee. So it's going to, you're going to press down. Oh, wait.
Here, I'm doing it.
Oh, yeah. Here, I got it.
I'll be your...
Yeah. So you're going to press down on that knee, and you're going to bring your chest forward, and you're going to get your chest as close as you can. Yes, your calf muscle. Good. And then you're going to hold it. All stretches need to be held for a minimum of 20 seconds. It tells your central nervous system it's okay to let go. Good. And then you're going to you're going to release it and put your other foot up and come down. Oi.
I feel it.
And you should be able to feel it. And then this is a great example. These are the types of things we'll be doing in the mobility class, right? So you have a hip socket, right? And primarily at this stage of our lives, this is how you're using your hip socket. You're sitting and you're standing. What we're not doing is lifting that hip up and swiveling it around. So we're going to have dowels in the class for everybody. And it's okay if maybe you start like this. Maybe that's all you could do initially. That's okay. But eventually, and I've got all the ladies in the class doing this now, they can bring their hips around. And then we're going to work on hinging. We don't do this anymore. We don't lift up in this way anymore. And maybe when you start, this will be it. Maybe after a while, this will be it. But I guarantee you, after a month or two, you'll be able to do a full extension. Why is this important? What is it like for you to get in and out of your car, a low car, right? Not a bus, the low car. Getting up like that and moving your hips in that way, you have to be able to have that fullest range of motion. Well, which one? Oh. How's that? Is that okay?
And then you'll be putting ice skates on.
Yeah.
And you'll be doing.
Okay, something that we can all do together. Put your hands, sit a little bit forward in your chair. Put your hands on the small of your back. And arch. Look up to the ceiling. Arch that back. Yeah. And now bring it forward. Round those shoulders. Hug yourself. And then sit back up again. Put your hands on the small of your back. Good. How does that feel?
Tight.
It's tight. Yeah, if you're not stretching regularly. Good. Now take one leg and stick it out forward. And take your hands and slowly come down. Maybe you're just going to touch your knee for now. That's okay. And try to get a little further. There you go. Good. I see some of you are at your toe. Try to keep that leg straight though. No cheating. Good. So this releases the whole back of your leg, and that will help with walking also. Good. And now, Florence, are you sure you don't want a demo? Come on, Florence. Get up here. Get up here.
Peer pressure, my God.
Here. So Florence is 95. And I want to show you a stretch that we do in class. And I want to tell you that I have many 50, 60-year-olds that I train that cannot do this motion. But because she stretches, I want to show Florence off for you. So we're going to do, you know which one? No, come here. It's you. So do the deep squat. Deep squat. No, both legs come down. Yeah, and put your hands on the ground. Straighten both your legs. Get your tush up. Look at this. And now come up.
That's perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. So I encourage you all to come to the mobility class on Wednesdays. We'll be starting it shortly. And I don't know if you'll be as good as Florence, but you'll get there. You'll begin to feel better, less tight, and it will help with your movements in all facets of life. Thank you. 10:20. 10:20. Thank you. Very good.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharon Katz. I think many of you have seen me sort of swoop in, run upstairs to the fitness center. Does everyone here know where the fitness center is? Is there anyone who really doesn't know where the fitness center is? Okay, stay after class. I'm a physical therapist. I have many, many years of experience in working with the older population, mobility, safety, balance, but most importantly, quality of life. And I really focused my practice on aging well. So one of the reasons that I love being here at CMC, which has started a few months ago, where we collaborated with Josh and Ilene. So if you don't know what's going on behind those doors, you really need to come upstairs because some great stuff is going on. Having myself there as a physical therapist who can address issues like pain, you might have an injury, you might be aging, you think your knees need a replacement, but they don't really. And then we work together along with Josh and Ilene to create exercise programs that you can then do on your own. And one of the reasons I love this as a physical therapist, and if anyone's had physical therapy before, they might be nodding their head. How many times has a therapist given you exercises and you don't do them at home? I know. So what's so great about being here is that we do it together along with Josh and Ilene, and then you can come here when I'm not here, and you can work with Josh and Ilene, and then you can create your own independent exercise program. So everything that Ilene and Josh have been talking to you about baby steps, about doing it slow, this is a great place to integrate all of these activities. So just for a show of hands, how many people have been participating in the exercise classes? Okay. For those who are not raising their hands, stay after class. Okay? But the reason we really want to talk about this together is as we age, we start stopping doing the things that used to be easy for us, and we blame that on aging. But really, we're not really understanding what's going on in our body. So for instance, I have pain in my knee, so I must have arthritis. So I have pain in my knee, I stop walking so well, I start slowing down, I don't walk as far as I used to, and my knee hurts so much that I don't do the stairs very well, and I feel old. Now, what if you understood that your knee pain might just be muscle tightness? It has nothing to do with your joint. It has to do with the change in the muscles and stiffness over time. So then you come to your physical therapist and she works on your knee and your pain is gone, hopefully. You can then start to participate in all the activities and do them well and realize that it didn't take that much. And the same thing with incorporating more fitness exercise into your life. So we have these ideas that we need to change, that because our body is changing, that there is nothing we can do for it. I see everybody coming here for classes and book club and art classes because they're stimulating their mind. But you should be doing that the same way with your body. And the reality is you have great people here who can show you the way. So I want to talk about a couple of things that each and every one of you probably in your own mind, I want to say, does this affect you? Do I have pain? Is there someone here who has no pain? Okay, so I have pain. How is my vision? Am I looking down at the ground more when I'm walking? Am I feeling more insecure? How's my hearing? I really don't hear everything, so I'm really not able to understand my environment as well as I used to. And how many people will walk up down the street and say, it's so uneven here. I'm feeling every rock. I don't want to trip on that little curb. And I hate walking across the street because I'm so slow. So all of those things come into our mind as our bodies change. So what happens? It changes so much, we stop doing things, and then when things happen to us, we feel like we can't recover. So has anyone in the room here fallen once, twice, many times? And how lucky are we that we did not break a thing? Okay? How lucky that somebody was there for us to help us get up from the floor. So I'm talking to you today on that level because I've seen all the exercise classes here. They're phenomenal. And people are starting to use the fitness center. And one of the really good things about it is that people are coming more often. Has anybody ever used a treadmill? Okay. If you haven't, you're probably afraid to get on it because you don't know what to do. And there's some machines up there that you probably have no idea how to use. But once you start learning how to use them, they become part of your routine. But one of the real reasons to do this mobility class is because a lot of times we're exercising, but we're sitting down. And so we're very stable. But if I were to ask you to stand up and do some of those exercises with the weights or move the stick that way, you would probably think like, I've got to hold on to something. Does that seem familiar? Right? It doesn't need to be that way. And just like Ilene was saying, that Florence, who, amazing, because I was going to say, like, how many people in this room can actually pick a penny up off of the ground and not feel that they're going to tip over? So you don't do it. And so what would happen if, God forbid, you fell? You'd be like, what do I do? So just to talk further about what Ilene showed you is some of the things that we're going to be using in the classes is that if I asked you right now to do this, standing, you'd be like, not me. But if you have some stability, like this stick, because you're going to see more of a stick, is that you can now do a standing activity with this, okay, right? Because you have something to hold on. Now, if you watch me, what am I doing? I'm shifting my weight, right? I go from one side to the other and I'm not falling. And you know, when I'm walking, this is what I need to do, shift my weight. So I'm strengthening that part of my body, right? If I asked you to pick up this weight from the floor, would somebody else ask somebody else to do it? Probably, because you'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to get down there and I am going to lose it. So in the classes, we work in these frameworks of motion to get you more comfortable with doing the activity so that soon you're going to be able to get down slowly to the floor and get on the floor, and you're going to be able to learn how to get yourself up by yourself. It looks hard right now. It looks impossible. But we break it up into many steps so that it strengthens your body to take care of itself. So everyone right now is telling you, you need a life alert. You need to make sure that you have 911. You've got to know the number to Hatzalah. But we don't really want that, right? We want you to be able to be strong enough to take care of yourself. And that's what I really like to focus on is aging in place. Everybody wants to stay in their home and to be able to do as much as they can. So outside of falling and things that I'm talking about, as we're getting older, we're not carrying groceries, we're not taking dishes out of a dishwasher, we're not doing a lot of things that challenged our balance. And that's why we become so insecure in our walking and our gait. So if you were to say, I have 8 plates that I take out of the dishwasher and I put them up on the second shelf, how many people could do that in here? Great, great. So we're talking about functional activity, strengthening, and also utilizing the fitness center to really further strengthen your body so that you can be Florence and feel more secure in their walking. Get down to the floor. And I'm just going to quickly look at Lori, and she's allowed me to talk about her today. Lori could not walk up to the second floor with me. When I came for the evaluation, she took the elevator. She couldn't do any of the balance exercises without feeling very, very insecure. And she needed to go on a cruise. That was your goal. So Lori now walks upstairs. Maybe you want to speak to it for a moment?
One of the things that helped me was really coming for physical therapy because I thought my knees were bad. It's not really my knees. My knees aren't really causing the pain. It's the muscles around my knees that are way too tight, and that's what was causing the pain in my knee. So I worked on getting them loosened up so that they're more functional. I was able to go on a cruise. I did not fall in Europe on cobblestone. I was able to walk several days, 16,000 steps.
Woo!
And all the people that had not had physical therapy before they went. And it has been an absolute lifesaver for me. It's totally changing my life, as is CMC in general. And things that I did not expect, things that I thought were the problem were not the problem. And it's absolutely crucial to think about coming to PT and figuring out, having one of the PTs figure out what is really wrong, that it's not necessarily what you think it is, but everything's attached and everything, it works together. And so when something's not working, you might think it's one thing, but it's really something else.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to end my talk and to say that I am here for another hour, and I'm going to be in the room next door. And if you're at all interested in talking to me about any physical therapy services, please do. But I also want to I can do like a small balance assessment. And that way we can sort of see and identify things that you might not be aware of, or you are aware. And we can take it from there. And I also have a pad of paper that I would like to pass around. And if people are interested in any further physical therapy observations, services, a conversation, please write your name down and your number, because this is all very personal. Everybody has their own life and lifestyle. So I really want to focus on you and what might be preventing you from, yeah.
Well, we'll make I don't know when it's going to start.
So I do physical therapy upstairs. We charge your insurances, so your Medicare and your secondary. And we have another physical therapist, Ayelet or Lisa, either name goes. And so we're here during the week, and we work along with Josh and Ilene. Yep. And what's really great, and Lori will tell you, is the carryover between your physical therapy and the exercises in the fitness room are just seamless.
So what I want to interject is what I do is I take the program that the physical therapists have written up for whomever they're seeing, and then I work with that. So you come into the gym, and I'll say, show me what the physical therapist wrote up for you, and off we go. And then maybe I'll add to it as you get stronger, but it's a great starting point, and it helps ensure that you're continuing the therapy and that you continue to get stronger. So.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Sessions, and then just dropping off Josh for continuation. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
That's kind of what our whole collaboration was built on, was to have people who may need a little extra help in whether it's pain or balance or whatever it is, and doing it in the gym so that we have this nice marriage of PT doing the, that work, and then, just kind of graduating you into the gym where we're there to kind of take that program, maybe fill in some of the missing holes or get you to another level. But that seamless, handoff from PT to, regular, workouts, you don't really find that anywhere. If you went to Athletico and then try to come here and tell us what you did, but they didn't give you the exercise, so you don't remember, it looks something like this, where you've got this great handoff to really continue on with your health journey. So,
and that's why it's really been nice for me and for them. It is a very unique collaboration of having a real team. And we really also focus, just like Rabbi Wolf focuses on your whole life. There's no service in here that doesn't address every aspect of your life. And so that's how we look at it from a physical therapy and fitness end. So I can be in a physical therapy clinic and I can do my job and I can send you off. But here, what I really like about it, it's a continuum. So you're going to continue your own health journey here. I have people that never came up to the fitness center till they came to PT. And now I get to walk in and see that they're already on the treadmill when I get there. And if you think about it, people, when they're older, they stop walking 2 or 3 blocks. And they don't know why they're so tired. And they can't access the community the same way. So that doesn't have anything to do per se about what I'm doing on that day for physical therapy. But the treadmill is another tool for you to maintain your balance, your safety, your strength, your cardiopulmonary. And that's why it's very unique here, because most people, as we age, would walk into a fitness center and say, I don't belong here. And what is so amazing is there's so much opportunity up there between the classes and in your own journey. And they're here to answer every need that you have.
Show of hands, my feelings aren't hurt. I'll be ordering equipment. How many of you think you'd like to come to the mobility class on Wednesday? Okay.
Try it. Try it at least
20?
once. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So as soon as I get the equipment in, then we'll make an announcement that we'll start the class.
And if you have any interest in talking to me about physical therapy, understand that we can call your doctor. You don't have to go run after a referral. Who's going to give it to me? How am I getting? It's very, very efficient on how we set up services. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming.
That's great.
If anybody else has any questions or anything, you can come up to the fitness center, ask Ilene or myself.
Yes,
Sharon's
but
gonna
we
be
can
here.
help you with
Thanks
that.
again
So
for
that's
coming.
why I want people to give me their name and number, and then I'm going to call you and we can talk about it and we can help facilitate it.